Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and talking about and showing you how to play Microscopic. Now, Microscopic is a small card game, and I want to give a big thank you to the designer, Jeff Shomei, for sending me this copy to check out and review. This game, by the way, if you are interested after watching this video, is available over on the Game Crafter. All right, so before we get too deep into this, I do want to say I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. There's also a link to my Teespring store there where you can get yourself some cool Board Game Captain merch, t-shirts, mugs, etc. And there's a link to my Patreon. If you're in a position to and would like to support the channel, you can head over to my Patreon. Links in the description down below. All right, so the game Microscopic is listed as a 2 to 4 player game. It's listed as 45 minutes and ages 14 and up. So we're going to start there. Now, the 2 to 4 players, this is a pretty good range in regard to players. It does play well at each player count. There's no player elimination in here. There is some take that, but there's no player elimination. You play until one person reaches the goal of having a certain number of organisms. We're going to show you how that works while we're playing. I think this game plays really good at 2 players, but there's no reason you wouldn't also enjoy it just as much at 3 or 4 players. In regard to 45 minutes, this is a little long, maybe for a 4-player game. I haven't actually tried it at 4 players yet. But at 2 players, it goes significantly less than this. I would say more like 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes the first time you play. But that's probably in there, again, for larger player counts. In regard to the ages 14 and up, this seems like a big overestimate to me. There does get to be a fair amount of things you got to keep track of, but I don't really think it's overly complicated. In fact, this is a very light intro-level game. So I would bring that down significantly, maybe to like 10 or 11, actually. Now, the rule book is pretty well done. It's full color. There's lots of diagrams. I really like this diagram for setup, for instance. There's a couple of minor ambiguities, but nothing I couldn't figure out on my own with just thinking like what logically makes sense. It's very short. This is not a very long rule book. You're going to be able to read through this in about 10 minutes or less and then teach everybody how to play. The game is fairly easy. The rest of the components are cards. So we've got the organism cards. These are one of the things that keep the game very varied because while you have 7 organism cards in a 2-player game, you only use 5 of those. So you get a different combination of organisms each time you play, generally speaking. Then you also have a bunch of quick reference cards. These are really nice, and there's enough for all players, even in a 4-player game, which is really good. Followed by, we have the regular deck of cards, which can be played either with their back face up on the table as genes, or their front face up as a cell. And we're going to be showing you how all this works out on the table in a moment. There's lots of different nice little cell illustrations for different kinds of cells. I quite like this. It's got a fun little science-y theme to it. The game doesn't really educate you about the science of how these things evolve, but it does have it as a theme and a backdrop, which is pretty cool. And I actually like the artwork style quite a bit. All right, so we're going to head over. We're going to run you through a few turns to show you how this game plays, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how this game feels, and I'm going to rate it and review it. Okay, so here we are set up to play a 2-player game of Microscopic. So in order to play a 2-player game, the first thing you have to do is shuffle up the organism cards and deal out 5 random organism cards for your game. For this game, we are playing with the heat-adapted organism, the simple organism, the cold-adapted organism, the resilient organism, and the photosynthetic organism. Each tells you what it's required to be able to play it and the abilities that it gives you along the bottom. Then you have to shuffle up the deck and deal out 3 cards to each of the players as their starting hand. Now, the first thing we need to do is see if we've been dealt any mutations. Lynn, did you get any mutations?
No.
All right, I was dealt one. I have a negative mutation. They're both negative and positive. And this mutation is photosynthetic cells will cost 1 more gene. Now, with mutations, you play them immediately whenever you're dealt them, whether it's during the startup or later in the game, and draw a card to replace it. So I immediately draw another card. then we are ready to play. So now this is a game that is very easy to show while doing. So Lynn, would you like to go first or second?
I'll go first.
Okay. So Lynn, go ahead with your first turn.
I am just going to throw all my cards down as jeans.
Now, the first option that you are always able to do is play cards face down as jeans. Now, once they are played down face down as jeans, you cannot use them for what's on the other side of them. For instance, this would have been a photosynthetic cell here, but you can't play that once it's a gene. It's a gene, it stays a gene. Genes are used as currency to play cells later. So Lynn is banking on having a good second turn. Now, once you've done this, Lynn has to draw her current number of cards that she draws, which the base number of cards that everyone draws is 2. And then you would discard down to your hand limit. Now, the base hand limit is 3, but of course, Lynn only has 2 cards in her hand because she played her entire hand as jeans before playing out, before drawing 2 cards. So she is done with her turn. So now for my turn, I am going to do 100% the same thing that Lynn did because it is a very smart move for the first turn. The only thing that would have stopped me from doing that is if I happen to have a virus in my starting hand, because a virus can allow you to discard a cell or mutation, either yours or your opponent's, and as I do have a negative mutation that's going to slow me down from getting 1 or 2 actually of these organisms that are out there, I would have tried to get rid of this mutation if I had a virus, but I didn't, so I'm going to play all 3 of my cards as jeans and draw 2 new cards for my hand.
I am going to play just 1 as a gene, and then I'm going to use these 4 genes to play a cold adapted cell.
So now when you discard the genes, they are played in a face down discard pile. We're putting it just a little off camera there, and Lynn has played a cold adapted cell. Does that cold adapted cell have an ability?
It does. All cells cost 1 less gene.
So now it's the end of Lynn's turn, so she's going to be drawing up her 2 cards, and then of course does not have more than her hand size, so does not need to discard down. Now it's about to be my turn here, and if I had a virus in my hand, I would have a tough decision if I wanted to get rid of my own negative mutation or Lynn's amazing cell she just played, but I do not have a virus, so I do not have that option. Instead, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to simply throw out 1 gene, and I'm going to discard 4 genes for a photosynthetic cell. Now, normally this photosynthetic cell only costs 3 genes, but my mutation makes them 1 more expensive, so I did need 4 to do it. Now, this particular cell does not have an ability, so I don't get an extra ability like Lynn did, but I will now be done with my turn, so I'm going to be drawing 2 cards, and that will be it for me.
I'm just going to be throwing out my cards as 2 genes.
And that's it for your turn?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to throw out 1 of my 2 cards as a gene. The other one is too good, and I need to hold on to it. And I'm going to draw 2 cards back up, and that's going to be it. Oops, wait a minute. But I got another negative mutation, so I have to throw that out. This one makes heat-adapted cells cost 1 more gene. Oh, what a pain. And I will draw another card to replace it.
I am going to throw out 1 card as a gene. And then since all my cells cost 1 less, I'm going to use 3 to get out a 4-cost cold adapted cell.
Oh. So Lynn is going really hardcore towards that cold adapted organism. And wow, she's got a heck of a head start on me. So let's see what I can do with my 3 cards here. All right, so for my turn, I'm going to throw down 2 of my cards as genes. I'm going to discard all 3 of them to play a simple cell. Now, simple cells are not one of the things that have a mutation that makes it more expensive, and it only costs 3 to play, and it's a really good one because this simple cell says all cells cost 1 less, which is fantastic because that ability now counteracts the extra expense for both photosynthetic cells and heat-adapted cells that I have from my 2 mutations, and all other cells are actually going to be 1 cheaper, which is really good. Really helps me to counteract the difficulty I have for my mutations. I'm going to draw my 2 cards, and that's going to be it for me.
I am just going to throw out both of my cards as genes.
Fair enough. I'm also going to throw out both of my cards as genes.
I'm only going to throw out 1 and keep the other.
Now, I don't want it to seem like I'm copying you, but I'm going to do the same thing you just did as well because I got a really good card there.
I'm going to throw out both of these. I'm only going to use 4, though, to pay for a cold adapted cell times 2.
Oh, now that
then,
what that means is that that cold adapted cell counts as 2 cells when paying for an organism.
And then I can get the cold adapted organism.
Now you will
by
lose.
Using
Lynn will lose her ability by discarding those. The ability that she had that said that all of her cells cost 1 less, so that is gone. But she gains all of the amazing abilities that you get for that cold adapted cell. So Lynn, what are the abilities you get for the cold adapted organism there?
Cold cells cost 1 less gene.
Awesome.
Draw and hand limit increased by number of your cold cells plus 1.
So +1 means, to start with, Lynn is going to be drawing 3 cards now, and she's going to have a hand limit of 4. If she gets more cold adapted cells back out, that will increase even further. So Lynn, go ahead and draw your 3 cards.
Oh, I got a mutation.
Oh, which one?
Water cells cost 1 more gene.
Oh, a little tough on getting the water cells, but...
I got another one.
Oh, which one?
Fire cells cost 1 less gene.
Oh, so you actually are really good for the heat adapted cells. Very nice. So yes, because there are positive mutations as well as negative ones. I'm going to throw out 2 of my cards as genes. I'm going to discard all 5 of them. Now remember, my heat adapted cells normally cost 1 extra because of my mutation, but because of my simple cell, they all cost 1 less. That cancels each other out. So 5 genes to play this double heat adapted cell. It's worth 2 genes towards requirements for heat adapted organism. So now I'm going to draw my 2 cards, and that's going to be it for me.
I'm just going to throw them all out as genes.
And then draw your 3 cards again?
Yep.
So Lynn is way ahead of me with having gotten that organism long before I was able to get any, and she's getting a lot more cards. Now I really need to hustle to try to get something going again. So I'm going to drop both my cards as genes and draw my 2 cards.
Okay. I'm going to throw out both of these
Okay.
as genes, and then I'm going to spend 3 of them.
Okay.
To put out a cold adapted cell. That gives me 1 extra draw.
So now you got 2 extra draws for that because you're a cold adapted organism, which means your draw is now up to 5, but your hand limit is 4. So you're going to draw 5 cards and discard 1. In this way, Lynn is able to get her engine going a lot sooner than I was, and definitely has a leg up on me. But I'm going to do my best to come back a little bit in the next couple of turns, and I think I do have a way to start catching up with her.
I'm going to discard that one.
Okay, so for mine, I'm going to drop 1 of my cards as a gene, and then because I have my simple cell that makes all cells cost 1 less gene, I'm going to discard these 3 for what would normally be a 4-cost water adapted cell, but now only costs 3, and it allows me to get 1 extra draw. So now I'm going to get to draw 3 cards, helping me to start catching up with Lynn. One of them is a mutation, and it is a good mutation. It makes water cells cost 1 less, so that is good, and I'm going to draw a card to replace it, and that is going to be it for me.
I am going to place all but 1 down.
Oh boy.
And then I'm going to use 5 of them to play a simple cell that costs that
Counts
is
as
2.
2.
Counts as 2.
Okay.
And then I draw.
Draw your 5 and discard 1. I'm going to play 2 cards face down as genes, and because of my reduction in cost from the simple cell, I'm going to be playing another simple cell, but this one has the ability that it gives me 1 extra draw. So now I'm up to 4 draws, and then I will have to discard down to 1. So I draw my 4 cards. I got another mutation, but it's a good one. My cold adapted cells are going to cost 1 less, so I'm going to throw that out, get another card to replace it. And then I have to discard 1 of these cards, and I'm going to discard 1, and that's going to be it for me.
Okay, I am going to play a virus to get rid of my bad mutation.
Oh, very good.
And then I'm going to put out 2 cards as genes, and then use all of them to get 1 more simple cell.
Okay.
I got a mutation.
What is your mutation?
All All cold cells cost one more.
Ah, not a good one. All right.
I have to discard one.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm going to use a virus to get rid of your double simple cell.
That's mean.
Because, well, I'm trying to get the simple cell, the simple organism, and you already have an organism. I need to try to do my best to get to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop one of my other cards as, you know what, actually I'm going to drop both of them as genes, and I'm going to draw back up my 3 cards and keep them.
I'm going to play 3 as genes.
Okay.
And my simple cell that I played last turn says all cells cost 1 less gene.
Mm-hmm.
So I can use those 3 to get a heat adapted cell.
Oh,
that
very
costs
nice.
4 usually.
All right.
Mutation.
What mutation is it?
Photosynthesis cells cost 1 less.
Well, that's a good mutation.
I'm going to need to reshuffle.
Okay. So Lynn's going to shuffle up the rest of the deck, get her full draw, and she's going to discard one, and then we'll be right back. So I have 2 viruses. I'm going to use them to discard both of the negative mutations that have been haunting me since the beginning of the game. So now both my photosynthetic and heat adapted cells do not cost the 1 extra anymore, and since they all cost 1 less because of the simple cell that's been out, they are now actually 1 cheaper than they just were a moment ago. In addition, I'm going to hold on to the other card in my hand, and I'm going to draw my 3 and discard 1. Now, the reason I'm holding on to my other card is it is a double simple cell. So my plan was that next turn I would have been able to buy the simple organism, just like how Lynn had bought the cold adapted organism. Now, the simple organism, which costs 4 simple cells, has the following abilities. It says simple cells cost 1 less gene. You may remove a cell from play to tuck it under this card. Now, that is in reference to your own cells. And then you may draw, your draw and hand limit are increased by a number of cards that are tucked under the simple organism plus 1. So you can bank cards under here to continually increase your draw limit and your hand limit, which is really pretty awesome. And that's it. That is how you play a game of Microscopic. So now we're going to head back over. I'm going to talk about how this game plays and how it feels, and I'm going to rate it and review it. There you go. That was how you play a game of Microscopic. So as you can see, this is kind of like an entry-level game. It's a bit of set collecting, a little bit of engine building. I really like all the abilities you get from placing out the cell cards. I like how sometimes you get a cell and you're like, ooh, I really need this to get some more genes on the table, but if I save it, you know, it's got a really cool ability. It's going to give me an extra draw. It's going to make it cheaper to get other cell cards out. So I may want to save it and try to get it out later. And that's really cool. I also really like the amazing abilities you get from the organism cards. Even though you lose your abilities from the cell cards, you can then get these amazing abilities that you can ramp up and really get into the engine building, especially because a lot of them will get more powerful the more you get of their type of cells on the table, in addition to the organism itself, which can be very, very cool. Yeah, so it does have some fun mechanics. It is enjoyable, and this is a very entry-level game. This is a good game to be an icebreaker game. This is a good game to be a filler game in between larger games on game night, or if you're like, we just have time for one more lighter game. I mean, this is not a huge, super complicated, mind-bending game. It's fairly easy. It's on the lower level, but the engine building is satisfying and fun. And I mean, that's bottom line what you want. You want it to be fun. So yeah, I do enjoy this one. So out of 10 stars, I'm going to give Microscopic 7 stars because I quite like this game. I think it's a fun little entry-level game. And if you enjoy the beautiful artwork, which I really like the cover art on this, as well as the fun sciencey theme to it, this could be a really good, light filler game for your collection. So there you go. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, either on the game of Microscopic or on this video, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this review and tutorial video, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.